So when I said growing up, like I really wasn't into the horses. The only thing I was into was the freestyle. Like when the Denver freestyle was the one thing I have attended every year since I was little. Like since it started, my dad, we would always go to that. And, I was very lucky in that I just loved it because I love the entertainment factor. And I mean, it's every little girl's dream, dress up and run around your horse in a dress and like sparkles and glitter and lights. Like, that was the one thing I was into. And so
You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
Welcome to The Ride, a bi-weekly podcast brought to you by Horse and Rider Magazine, co-hosted by Nicole Cherico and Devin Conley. In each episode, we chat with some of the industry's top trainers, clinicians, horsekeeping experts, and professionals to share inspiring stories, training philosophies, and the importance of living your best Western horse life.
In this episode, we sit down to talk to Sharee Schwartzenberger. Sharee is a second-generation professional horsewoman from Longmont, Colorado. She grew up in the horse industry with very accomplished parents. Sharee has shown extensively in the NRHA and AQHA, first as an amateur and non-pro, and then turned professional in 2017. She's a capable competitor, a talented coach, and one of the elite freestyle reining competitors in the nation. Sharee is here to talk about freestyle reining and her experiences growing up in the industry, as well as finding her own training and coaching style. This episode is brought to you by Purina.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Ride. This is Nicole. I'm here with my co-host, Devin, and today we are talking with NRHA professional Sharee Schwartzenberger. You have probably seen her on social media because I feel like every year she has another freestyle video that goes viral online. But Sharee has been a reining competitor her whole life, grew up with a family that's involved in the industry and has turned a career into it. So Sharee, thank you so much for coming on here and talking with us and sharing your story with everyone.
thank you guys so much for having me and inviting me. I'm excited. This is the first podcast I've ever done, so hopefully it'll be entertaining.
Well, I love it. We have a lot of people who are first timers on the podcast, and it's fun to hear your story and be kind of the first ones to really dive into it. But for people who may not know who you are or may not be familiar with the reining industry in your family, can you talk a little bit about your upbringing? Obviously, your horse life is going to be a lot different from other people who had to find their love for horses outside of a family that didn't do the horse industry. But you come from a family, your dad and your mom both own a training, business in the reining industry. And, your dad's a vet and you guys do a lot of, breeding and you're hitting every aspect of the horse industry.
Yep. So my parents are Steve and Dory Schwartzenberger, and they have trained horses in Longmont, Colorado for over, I think it's maybe approaching even 40 years now. They've done it for a long time. My dad went to vet school at CSU, and when he was when he was applying to vet school, he started training horses down in Colorado Springs. He was my grandparents were in the Air Force, so that's where he grew up, was in the Springs, and so he started training horses down there, and then when he was in vet school, that's how he kind of got started. He was training horses to help pay his way through vet school. So, and then my mom, she was at CSU, and she got her doctorate in animal nutrition and mostly beef cattle and stuff like that. But they met kind of in the dorms and at college and stuff, and through various things, they ended up together. And when my dad graduated school, he was actually making more training horses than he could have been paid as a vet. So that's how he kind of got started. They decided to kind of give the horse training business, as they said, we'll just do it until we're broke and then we'll get real jobs. And, 30, 40 years later, here we are still making it happen. So I grew up with them. And honestly, my parents were, horses were always around, but they really tried to actually push us into other interests. So I always had, I had a horse to show when I was younger, and I'd show in the summer and stuff, but my mom, she was adamant we'd not miss school to go to horse shows. So I think that's a little different than lots of people nowadays. There's a lot of kids, like my sister, she's the typical kid, horse crazy girl. From a little time, she was always begging to be on the horse and stuff, where I was a little, I guess, not disinterested, but I just was into other stuff, and it wasn't my main focus or dream. So, when we were little, I was really into basketball, volleyball, all other sports. So that was more my focus. So, in the summer I would show, and throughout the year I'd ride, but I wouldn't really, it wasn't a high thing. My horse always got kicked outside during school and stuff. Um, so it wasn't, I guess my parents are a little different in that they tried to get us to do other interests. They wanted us, like my dad always said, go get a real job and, do this as a hobby, because it's a hard lifestyle. And I mean, you're stuck at like, as anyone with horses know, you're tied to them. Can't just like take vacations all the time. And especially for us, when you have 40, 50 horses on the place, it's hard to get away. So, our life revolves around them. So they kind of tried to push us away from it. And we both my older sister and I, she's always been known that's what she wanted to do, whether it was vet school or get into the, she managed a couple repro barns and stuff. So she's always been into it. And mine, when I got into college, I actually got my degree in hospitality management and was going to be a wedding planner. And I did that for a little while. And after that, I came home because I was broke and needed money, and started helping my folks, and actually kind of figured out, I was like, I want to kind of try this. I've never shown, like, I'm probably one of the few kids that grew up in a horse show world that didn't like, the first time I went to the fraternity or even heard of it was like when I was like 19. My parents, it was always during school. So I never went, and my sister would go, but it was really not on my radar. So like, I didn't know the big names or anything. So after college, I was in my 20s, was when I really kind of was like, what is this? Like, what do we do? Like, kind of got into it and started learning to ride like younger horses and how to train them and stuff. And I just really found that it's kind of became my passion. I was really into it. And I always told my parents, I'll just do this until I wake up and I don't want to go outside and ride, or I don't want to do it, and I'll go get a real job, just kind of how they did it. And that's never happened. It can be 10 feet of snow and cold, and I still want to go out there. And, it's presented me a day, like no days are the same. We always have challenges, and I love working with the clients. That's a big thing I've enjoyed. And because I showed as a non-pro, so I really enjoy helping non-pros. And I've enjoyed, kind of the process of becoming a professional and going pro and all that. So it's kind of a path I never expected when I was younger. But I've really come to like find it as a passion. I think that makes it even more rewarding to, when I was little, my grandparents and everyone you talk to, they say, do something you love and you never work a day in your life. And I truly think that's kind of what it is. And I think it's just because it's our upbringing, it's in our blood. My parents ended up the same way. None of us planned on this lifestyle, but we just ended up here.
Yeah, I get that. So growing up, you did a bunch of different sports and activities outside of the horse show world. Do you feel like doing all those things outside of showing horses impacted like your perspective on the show world when you finally entered it later on, like you said, 19, 20 or so? Do you feel like that changed your perspective, having that like really well-rounded background of different activities and sports?
I think so. It made me like, obviously we're all very competitive in nature, growing up in that. So, I always wanted to be competitive. I always, from sports have learned that, I always thought there was something you could learn. When I was growing up, I was always going to camps, team stuff. I've always thought there's always something more you can learn, and you can always improve on your skills and stuff. And I still believe that with the horses, every day I learned something new. And, having both my parents and now my sister moved home, having all those resources, the whole family there now. So, I mean, it's just a whole bunch of, every day you learn something. They always tell us, and even our assistants and clients and stuff, they'll pose questions that I've never heard or never even thought about. And, it makes me better to have to like think about how do I explain this? How do I answer this? And, and the horses, they're all individual. So you always encounter something new. Like you'll get one that'll do something. You're like, well, what did I do to teach it that? So it's a very, I think sports and that whole thing, it just really showed me that if you're passionate about it and you really enjoy it, you need to be a student of it. And you always hear that from professionals, like football players and everything. The best ones is they're students of the game. And, that's kind of, I think that leads into the horse training as well. If you really want to be good at it, you have to be kind of, I hate to say, almost obsessed with it. And that's kind of how we are. It's most our conversations revolve around horses or clients or shows, or, we do have other hobbies and stuff, but it's what we're passionate about. We're always worried about them and thinking about it. So, and I think growing up with sports and everything, it just showed me that, and in addition to hard work, if you put in the work on the court or, after at the gym or whatever, it pays off when you go to perform. And it's exactly the same in the arena. So
Yeah, for sure. I think having that athletic background just like sets you up for success in the horse industry, because you have that athletic mindset. You have that, you're just as much as an athlete as the horse. And I feel like we've gone down this road with Kelly Altsteiger, who's one of your really good friends.
Yep.
And we've had her on the podcast to talk just about that. But you touched on, you have to be almost obsessed with it. It's so true, because horses are too expensive. And like you said, like it's a really hard life. Like you don't go on vacation. You have, you're probably have more to take care of than a majority of people who are probably listening to this podcast. But when you have 40 or 50 head, you can't just leave town for the weekend and go to the mountains, or, fly somewhere for the weekend. And so, yeah, it's too expensive of a sport, and it takes up too much time to not be obsessed with it. So obviously you have that obsession. When you transition from non-pro to professional, obviously that's a huge change in riding and showing. Even though you're still doing the same thing, you're still showing reining horses, going from that non-pro division to that open division can be really daunting. Can you kind of talk a little bit about that transition and what it was like going from the non-pro into the professional division?
Yeah, it was definitely a change, but I warranted, when I started out, I was told my parents, I was like, if I don't get tired of it and quit and go get a real job, my goal, if I want to do this, is I need to get paid, so I'll do it professionally. So after I competed for a while as a non-pro, I kind of reached the point that I was like, I want to give it a try. So NRHA has an apprentice program where you basically surrender your non-pro status for a year and you can work for a trainer. And it's a trial year to see if you want to be a professional trainer. And then after that year period, you can decide whether you want to stay an open rider or go back to a non-pro. So I did that, and I did it with my dad. And I thought about doing it with some other different trainers. My dad had reached out to lots of different trainers, Jordan Larson, even Andrea Fapani, a bunch of them. And they were all open to, said they'd take apprentices and stuff. But after visiting with my parents and everything, I just really thought, I'm like, what I like to do at the time, especially, was I was like, I really want to work with non-pros, and I want to see what it would be like to work in our situation. Because this is like, here, my dad, unfortunately, as always, like everyone, they're getting older, and he's reaching the point of, retiring if they do that. And so I was like, well, we have a facility, we have a business. And at the time, my sister was in Texas. I'm like, no one's, they're either going to sell it and quit, or I said, anyone else would be crazy to miss this thing. So I just kind of decided to stay home, work with my dad, see how it would be, how that life and how that would work out. And so I worked with my dad and mom, and at first, it was really nice. All of our clients were extremely supportive and stuff, and really excited when I decided to go for it. And it took a while. Like, I was lucky I had a pretty nice Derby horse from when I was a non-pro. So, when I transitioned into showing and competing as an open rider, I was still, especially locally, I was pretty competitive that way. But, it's just a different level. I maybe was really easy and can run 71s, maybe 72s, like with my eyes closed. And it was very, I was very competitive, but I always joked with my dad that it was kind of a scam. I said, now I run those scores and I can't even get my name called. So I was like, now I have to run like a 73 just to get a paycheck. But it was, I think it was the push I needed to really step up and try to really focus on what I was doing and how to improve and get better. And, a similar situation, a couple of years ago, my dad got hurt. He got hurt and had to have his shoulder replaced. So he had a client that he had bought him a really, really nice 3-year-old named Spoots Matris, Inga Guernsey. And so he'd shown him at Summer Slide, and his shoulder was getting replaced in August. So it was or end of August. So it was right before the Tulsa, like a week before that, they told him he wouldn't be able to show anymore and he was going to have surgery. So he and Inga talked, and they said, well, let's let Sharee try showing him. and see how she gets along. And so they gave me the opportunity. I took him to Tulsa and we had a few bobbles there. But, it's a whole different caliber of horse than I was used to. And so it was a learning curve, but Inga was, both Inga and my dad were very patient. And that horse kind of like stepping up, he challenged me, like, because I'm like, this is the kind of horse that you need that, is an open horse. And this is what I need to compete on. And that was a challenge to me to step up myself in my showmanship to show him off to the level he should be at and to train him to get to there. Because, in the past, my dad, he would always, if I struggled somewhere, I'd say, he'd get on and help me, and he'd basically like show me how to fix it, or he'd just fix it. And then, it wasn't a big deal, but, not having him there kind of made me have to really grow up, I guess, officially, and learn to do it on my own. And, I was very lucky. Even to this day, I was thinking the other day how blessed I was to have Inga trust me with her horse. And, and I showed him and had some really good success as a 3-year-old. And they decided to let me keep showing him through his dirt for a few years. And we had some really great runs and I learned a ton. And he really just helped me elevate my training and my, get confidence on how to compete in the open and show. And, it's still something I still work on every day. And, but, I feel very blessed to have had that opportunity to do that. And same thing as, I think getting that opportunity really helped me push myself to be a better trainer and be really dig into being an open rider.
That's a great story. I like the trial by fire, way that you had to learn.
Yeah.
I learned the same way, like on the job, let's just do it. Throw me to the wolves.
Yeah, exactly.
And then having to like step up for the horse because you want to show off the horse's capabilities. So then you realize like, oh, I better work on myself too. I think that's a good message for anybody. Training out of the same barn as your mom and dad, that's a super cool opportunity. What is that like to have that kind of support team around you all the time? I mean, that's incredible, right? To have that support behind you, like whenever you need it.
Yeah, it's it has its challenges. It is working with family, and especially with my sister home now. And anyone that knows us, like, we are a strong, opinionated family, and we're very vocal, and we're not afraid to tell each other that. So there gets some brawls once in a while, and our poor assistants Sam and Emily, they have days they tiptoe around things because they're like, oh gosh. But I feel very blessed because both my parents are NRHA judges. My mom served as the judges committee chairman for a long period of time. She's traveled the world training judges. So, her insight along with my dad's is just invaluable because they're always, even, my mom the last year, she's had some back issues, so she can't ride. But she comes out every day and she'll sit there and watch us for a while. And, they're always telling you, yes, that looks good, or no, you need to do this. And like, for me, it's always, am I fast? I've learned I've never fast enough. So, it's always like, every time I wonder if I'm going fast enough, I've just decided, no, you're never fast enough. So, but it's really helped me. And it's good to have those people, and even my sister, to bounce ideas off of, and just a pair of eyes. When you're by yourself, you don't have those eyes. And even my assistants, some people, I value their opinions. When like last year, my dad he's breeding season is very big for him, so he can't travel. So one of my assistants, Sam, he came on the road with me, and it was just the two of us pretty much all spring, and he was my eyes and ears to take care, like help me get ready. Cause again, I'd be like, well, does that look good? Does that look, am I going fast enough? And he was there to help me and say, no, you need to go faster. Or, I'd bounce ideas off him of, does this, like, am I weird? Like, do I feel this? Does this look weird? He always, cause I feel stuff and I'm a little bit of a perfectionist. So, nothing's ever good enough in my eyes. But, there's a lot of times that the big picture is, you can't see the forest through the trees kind of thing. So, I need that outside person to help me and, just confirm what I'm feeling or give me advice. I feel like that's something I try as a professional and just, especially as a trainer, to be very open. And, I'm always having try to make myself ask my dad, every week, like, watch this one, help me. What do you think? And, he's ridden with several trainers. He's been in the business for so long, and he explained to me, he goes, sometimes he lets me flounder and figure it out on my own, because he says that's the best way to figure it out. But then he's like, there's a lot of stuff that, mistakes I've made that if you're willing to listen, I'll help you so you don't have to make those. And, I feel like you need to be open-minded and, use his knowledge, use my mom's knowledge as a judge, as well as she's written and stuff. And has coached a lot of not pros. So, I try to use both those avenues to kind of gain insight to help, I guess, get myself ahead and not have to learn through all the hard mistakes that sometimes they've had to. So it's helped me, and it gives me a more rounded, view of it and different ideas. And because I know I don't have all the answers. And sometimes, like there's times I'm working on something and my mom comes out and tells me do something different. And I'm just like, and I don't think she's right. And then like an hour later I try it and I'm like, dang it. Like, don't tell her that was right. So, usually I've learned, never say never on it. And I try to keep an open mind in it. I would love to say I know it all, but I don't. So I just generally swallow my pride no matter what I think and try to listen to them and go from there. And if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. We each have our own style and stuff. So, but they're very good at letting me kind of try my own, do my own thing, but they don't let me deviate too much because I tend to sometimes overdo it. And like, when my sister moved home, I was listening to her and getting all this advice from her. And they'd be like, well, don't leave, it's good to try stuff, but don't get too far away from what you do and stuff. So it's good. They keep me balanced, I think.
I love that. I think there's challenges that come with having so many people in one barn. It's like you said, family, but it's also really great to know that if you do run into trouble, you have that support system and you can call your dad up or your mom or your sister and get advice on what they might do over a certain aspect of it. So that's really cool. One thing that I really stood out to me is how you had mentioned that you knew immediately that you wanted to coach non-pros. That was something that you knew going into the open division, working as a professional, you wanted to help non-pro riders. And I think a lot of people who don't come from the horse training side of it don't really realize that like you can be a really amazing open level trainer and you might be a horrible non-pro coach, or, like the other way around. Like you could be the best non-pro coach in the world, but you might not be winning the fraternity every year. Like, and so it's really, we hear from so many people who are like, oh yeah, I wanted to train the best of the best horses. But I love hearing from someone who's like, no, I wanted to train non-pros, because I think at the end of the day, the non-pros are the backbone of this industry. And you have to, if we don't have them, there's only so much money in the open level, and especially that 1% at the top of the open level. But there are so many non-pro riders out there who just want to get better. And I love knowing that you want to help them. Can you kind of talk about, one, obviously talking and coaching people, that's a skill set all on its own, because I know so many people who can ride the heck out of a horse, but cannot tell you how they do it. But also like, just having that mindset of being able to coach them through, difficult things at the horse shows.
So, I mean, that was something, and my mom and dad, they said, when we talked about me going pro, because I was like, I really I want to help people. And like, that's something my parents have done their whole career, and they always said, that's like you said, they're the backbone. And especially up in Colorado, our non-pro, I guess, demand is huge up here. And like our shows, for as long as I can remember, the non-pro classes are the biggest classes. I mean, I remember competing in a limited non-pro class. I had 130 entries at SummerSlide one year. And so, I mean, it's a huge part up here. And I think it comes from me liking, like even in sports when I was growing up, I was always kind of the one that liked to help. Like if someone didn't know or was struggling in a drill or something, I wanted to help them. And, I've always and even after I played sports, I got my basketball coach from high school when I was in college, or after college, somewhere around there. She'd reached out to me about being a coach, helping coach one of her teams, but with horses and stuff, I couldn't commit the time. But, it just kind of made me aware that I think I just innately have that instinct to like want to help people and coach. And from competing as a non-pro and, and I'd been pretty successful. I'd never like won anything major, but I made the finals a few times. I was happy with what I had done in such a short period. I think it just helps me relate to them more. I know where a lot of I have clients from all levels that are starting out to, we have like green riders to, people that want to, like I have one girl that she wants she's like a big time non-pro and wants to win the Derby and stuff. And, everyone in between, all kinds of levels. And it's just trying to relate to them. I deep down, I think, something that made my parents and our family always tries to reiterate to them is that this is supposed to be fun for them. We want them, no one wants them to do better than we do, but not at the expense of their enjoyment. And so, we have and a lot of it's our clientele. We're very blessed. They have a good approach to it. They're in it for the right reasons. Lots of them love their horses. They just want to have fun, take care of them. They want, if they win a paycheck, they're ecstatic, but they just want to learn and get better every time, and just enjoy spending time with us and spending time with their friends. And so, they don't put a ton of pressure on themselves, some of them, but, there are the few that we have that do put a lot of pressure. And I just try to reiterate, I'm like, just remember, win, lose, or draw, this isn't the end of the world. Like, how you do in the show pen does not determine if there's food on your table at the end of the day, or, this is something they should enjoy. And I always tell them, you could afford to go on a lot of vacations for what you spend on this. So let's at least win, lose, or draw, let's at least have some fun and make this fun. And so, that's something I really try to really emphasize to them. And, I want to be competitive. I want them to be competitive. And, I always tell them, no one will work harder on your horse than me. And I encourage them. There's no dumb questions. I don't care if you don't understand why you ride with your left hand over your right hand, or why, your horse twists its ears when you kick it or something. I try to encourage them to be open, to ask questions. And, we set realistic goals, with my clients. And I really think that me being able to relate to them, a lot of it, I try to ride all their horses, and that helps me understand to say, okay, because a lot of them can feel something, but they don't know how to describe what's going on. And I can say, okay, I know what you're feeling, and it's a similar thing for me. When my parents will say something, they'll say, okay, I think what you're feeling, it doesn't impact the big picture. So, I can relate because I'm very similar to a lot of them. So I need that outside. It helps, I think, because of that, I'm able to communicate with them and break things down to them and make it a little simpler and explain it. I don't mind taking the time to sit down and tell them why we do a drill, why we fence, why we, and what we're trying to accomplish when we do things. And, and if something doesn't make sense, I'll take the time to reiterate, try to explain it better to them, because I think that does help them. And a lot of it is they just appreciate the time you take to help them, because a lot of them, some people didn't start riding, grow up in a horse family or grow up around horses. They started it when they're older. And, and that's something my parents have always instilled with us is we work a lot on horsemanship and, putting your heels down, sitting balanced in the saddle, that kind of stuff, because it all impacts how you show. And so it's not just we have your horse, and we encourage them to we'll help get the horses ready, but we encourage them to get their horse ready, brush them, spend time with them. Cause that's what they're there for. If they just want it, it's not like a car where you just rent your car, jump in and drive away. We have some clients that kind of like that, but we try to encourage them, spend some time with your horse, get to know them. We love being around them, and we feel blessed that we get to, work with their animals and take care of them every day in and day out. But, I try to get our clients, spend time with them, get to know their personalities. They're all different, and just like the clients, a lot of times they're very similar to their owners. So we just try to make it fun, and that's something that I think that is why we've grown our non-pro business pretty big. Is I'm there to push them, but I try to keep it in check. It's not, in the end of the day, if they win the class or if they lose the class, it doesn't matter to me. I want, as long as they've had fun and they've enjoyed the experience and they're enjoying their horse and they're happy with it, that's what matters to me. So.
And coming from a teaching background, I know so many people miss out because they're scared to ask questions and they don't want to be perceived as being dumb or whatever. So I love that you encourage that, and that whole mentality is awesome. And it's supposed to be fun. I think that's something that everybody needs to hear multiple times, right, in this sport, because it is a sport and we want to be competitive, but it's supposed to be fun also. So thanks for saying that. I think that all really speaks to your philosophy working with your clients and their mentality. If you could sum up your horse training philosophy in like a sentence, what would that be? I know it's probably really hard to sum it up in a sentence.
Yeah. I guess our philosophy is mainly just trying to help each horse reach the best it can be, whether that's as a reining horse or some other discipline. Not every horse is meant to be a reiner, and not and I hate to think how many horses are ruined or because they are tried to force to be it. You can have the best reining bred horse, and if it's not what they're supposed to be, it's not. But it doesn't mean they're a bad horse. A lot of times. So I've dealt a lot, especially over the years. I was involved with selling a lot of horses, and there was a period where I was I would take consignments in and sell them for people and stuff. And, I really enjoyed that because it's just finding out what that horse is good at. And, and like I said, the beautiful thing not everyone is a reiner. So, in general, with reining horses, we get them pretty broke. They get pretty broken. You can go a lot of different avenues, which is why I love the reining. And it sometimes takes a little longer to get them there, but, they're very versatile on where you can go. So we just have our basic kind of foundation we put on. So when I would get them in, basic foundation that we kind of place we try to get into, and then you can, dictate what their strengths are. Some horses are maybe a little too hot and like to go faster so that it doesn't mean they're bad. They're maybe not the best reiner, but they might be a rope horse. They might be a barrel horse, or some of them are, they can be a trail horse, which there's nothing wrong with that, especially as of late. Like if you watch the market, like a broke, quiet trail horse is worth a ton right now. So, every horse has a path, and, I think our goal is to try to find that, figure out what they're good at and try to bring out the best. And even if it's not for what we need, even the ones we raise and stuff, they're not all going to be, winners and stuff, but we try to put them in a level that they can be successful at, show them where they can be good. Most of the ones, even if it's, we always dream to raise the fraternity champion and something that's amazing, but 99% of them aren't that horse. Like you said, that's a 1% maybe. And someday we hope we can get there, but that doesn't mean we raise a lot of really nice horses. And that's what we try to produce and provide to our clients. And when we sell them, that's what we try to provide, is a horse that what you get, that you can take, you can trust, you can enjoy, and it's got a good foundation and good training behind it, but it also has a sound mind, and it's happy and it enjoys its job. Because that's the hardest thing, is when you have something one that doesn't enjoy it, and you're trying to make it happen, and it's just no matter how hard you try, and no matter how you try to force it, you can't force something that's not meant to be sometimes. So that's something we try to do, is really keep, like NRHA and all of them say, the horse first. And that goes in their, well-being and everything, but also in their mental thing. And, and they're, some of them physically can't stand to be a reiner. They get sore or get hurt, or, it's just finding the right niche for each horse kind of thing. So that's something we really try to find and focus on. And same thing, even with ones that can be reiners, if they're just the beginning, a lower level reiner, that's not bad. Like, let them be what they are and try to make them the best they can be and improve on them. But you're also not going to make them, if they're not a +1 stopper, you're not going to make it happen. So, just kind of let them be what they are and make them the best they are. And, try to make sure the owners are aware of where their horses are or whatever, and that, everyone's on the same page. That's, the biggest thing.
The other thing I really like about the reining is how many different classes there are for, at a reining show. Like you said, there's the lower level stuff. There's the rookie, there's the green horse. And then you go into your, fraternity horses, your derby horses, your open level, your high end non-pro, but there's a place for everybody. And I think that's the one thing that really drew me to reining in particular, is because I have a little reining horse and I can show in all the levels because I've never done it before. And like the fact that you can make some pretty decent money in the level 1. I mean, you might not have a level 4 horse, but you can still compete in the level 1 or the level 2 and do really well and take home money and have fun and enjoy yourself. And it's, there's just as many people competing in that level 1 stuff as there are the level 4. I mean, it's so cool to see that they have so many events for the reining horse. So yeah, you raise one, it's not going to be the level 4 winner of the fraternity, but it could still be a really great non-pro horse in the level 1 or the level 2, or a great rookie horse or a great short stirrup horse. I mean, there's so many different avenues that they can go within the reining.
Yes, exactly. And that's what I love about it. And even different breeds and stuff. I have a client that a few years ago, she had a Mustang that she trained, a rescued Mustang that she trained to do reining. And, and she took it and she showed it in Vegas and some ancillary stuff and all of that. So it's very, I think the NRHA has done really well at giving an avenue for different, all kinds of levels of riders and horses as well. And they try to really encourage it, and there are different programs they push and stuff. It's very welcoming and stuff. So that's one part I do love about reining as well.
All right, so I know at the beginning Nicole was talking a little bit about like your freestyle reining performances. If you guys haven't seen those, you got to go watch some of those videos. I know they've gone viral a bunch. Incredible performances, just beautiful. What drew you to the freestyle reining? You really made a name for yourself there. Did that happen on purpose, or was it just something fun you wanted to try? Can you talk a little bit about that?
So when I said growing up, like I really wasn't into the horses. The only thing I was into was the freestyle. Like the Denver freestyle was the one thing I have attended every year since I was little. Like since it started, we would always go to that. And, I was very lucky in that I just loved it because I love the entertainment factor. And I mean, it's every little girl's dream, dress up and run around your horse in a dress and like sparkles and glitter and lights. Like, that was the one thing I was into. And so, and I was very lucky because freestyle was pretty new and reining was pretty new still. So, it was a great way to kind of introduce people and the general public to reining. So my dad being one of the, him and Guy Vernon and stuff, being one of the initial people to bring it out here, the Denver stock, well, not, but National Western, we had various committees and stuff that would invite my dad to do exhibitions of freestyle reining and to show how to do it. And, dad being dad and old and stuff, he got tired of doing them. So he would send his daughters to go do them. And so everyone asks how I got started. That's how I did. And it was an amazing opportunity. At the time I just thought it was really fun to go do, but that's how it kind of got my foot in the door and kind of helped me build into getting into it. Is I got to do them in less pressure situations. I'd go and they'd have like a conference and they needed some entertainment. So they'd invite us to come. So my sister and I would go and we do little freestyle routines on our horses. And then I started competing. And then there was a few years when the freestyle, I can't remember exactly when, but when they were kind of down on numbers, or like, I think some years my dad just didn't feel like doing it. And so they would let me fill in, or my sister would fill in for him. And so those gave us opportunities to kind of get our foot in the door, where now it's such a selective thing and it's so hard to get into. I feel very blessed that we kind of grew up with that opportunity, and that's an advantage of having my parents and them giving us that opportunity to go do it. But in doing so, they really, it helped me kind of approach it the right way. I'd watched Guy Vernon do freestyles. I'd seen Pete Kyle perform, some of the greatest ones I've ever seen. I'd watch them perform there, and I'd help I was involved in the process. I helped my dad, we helped my dad and watched my mom and him come up with routines and how they approached it. And as I would do my own, my dad would, mom and dad would work with me. And, my dad's biggest thing, and I've said in several interviews, the number one thing he always tells me is focus on your maneuvers. He goes, it's a reining, especially if it's a competition. He goes, no matter what, it's a reining. And so, that's always my primary focus, is to do the best maneuvers I can. And then next you focus on the routine and the, piecing the rest. And honestly, for me, the entertainment factor has been the last thing that I've really kind of learned and to develop, because initially, and people don't really know, I'm a pretty shy person. And so, growing up and stuff, like even when I was little, I'd always hide behind my parents. And so, going out there, and they see me now when I'm out there and dancing and, playing with the crowd and stuff, that's something that I've really kind of had to learn to do. And, it's not something that's natural to me, like it was to Guy and to Pete and a lot of those guys that, they're just that's their personalities. I'm a little more reserved like my dad and stuff. And so, it's something I've had to learn. And and honestly, my parents kind of laugh because they're like, it's like you go in the arena and like my stage presence comes on. And because my dad, they both never imagined I would be like I am out there with it and stuff. But I think a lot of it's just kind of, I've learned to be comfortable out there, and that's from the opportunities I've been presented with. I mean, the first time I did freestyle at Denver, I remember sitting on my horse and getting ready to go in, and I was white.
The PhD equine nutritionists at Purina Animal Nutrition tackle problems using science, and their love of horses keeps them at it until they get it right. Even with the most established feeds, they keep innovating. Even when it takes years of research, they don't stop until it's right. They are dedicated to the scientific method, but it can't capture the feeling of seeing a horse reach their full potential. It takes science and love to help your horses live their best life. Put their research to the test at horseinnovation.com.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, back to the freestyle stuff. So, I mean, I think that's just having those opportunities really helped me learn how to do them and how to perform them. And, I've just kind of built on them from there. And, I've been, another side of it, I've been very lucky to find some pretty good ideas. So those are hard to come by. So I've been lucky in the creative department as well, I guess.
Well, and for those that are not familiar, when you say that you've competed at Denver, you're talking about the National Western Stock Show, which is one of, the biggest stock shows in the country, I would say, and one of the oldest running. And but what you're not including is that this is a sold out event that people pay like $50 a ticket to attend. And I've had the opportunity to attend it the last 2 years. And yeah, I would probably also go pale and freak out the first time I had to do it too, because you're literally in a sold out audience having to do this performance. It's insane.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a whole new beast and something, like at the typical reining, you have people that watch, but it's nothing like that. And, the adrenaline and the atmosphere of that arena is unlike anything else. You kind of understand how, for me, it's like if I was in the NFL or something of that nature, it would be that environment because it's just electric in there. And what's a little different is it's not just horse people. It's not just reining people. It's people there are people that have attended it since the start that they live in Denver and they don't know much about, or they're new to horses. They own a horse. They maybe have never grown up around them or anything, but they've happened upon it and they attend it every year. And so it's a great, you meet all kinds of people. I met a lady this year that she's literally been to every one of them and seen me grow up in it. And it was like her bucket list to meet me. And, I was visiting with her and same thing. She's like, I love this show. And it's, so that's been really cool is watch it grow. Cause like I said, there were some years that, there was no people, the snowstorm came or something like that. And it wasn't attended very well. And they were begging people to come perform at it because they could barely get 10 people to perform. So, it's had its ups and downs and growing pains, but, the last, I would say at least decade or so, it's really got its foot and just taken off. And, I give a lot of that credit to, the guys that started it and, the competitors that were here, my dad, Guy Vernon, Shane Brown, Devin Warren, Aaron Ralston, all those guys Terry Wagner, that, from the very beginning, they took pride in that event and they took it upon themselves to make it what it is they knew everyone was going, you don't bring just any horse, you bring your best horse and you better come up with a good routine. Cause if you don't, someone else is going to, and it's kind of like their bragging rights for the year to see who won the freestyle. And they took pride in it. And that's what I think elevated it. And, and when other people, they used to bring in people from when people would come from out of state and stuff, they'd say they were and even still today you hear about from people that come from out of state or judges that watch it. And they're like, I've never seen a competition like this because it is, we all like to have, it's a fun event and stuff. But when it comes down to it, everyone knows they had better come up with something special. Because it's going to take, you better bring your best horse and you better have a good idea because it's going to take something good to be competitive if you want to be up in the top. So,
yeah, totally agree. Just from going and watching those events also at the National Western, it's like, bring your A game because every performance, I'm like, somebody can't top that. And then they top it. I'm like, somebody can't top that. And then they top it.
Yeah.
It's just, the showmanship is incredible too. I mean, for our folks that don't really know what the freestyle reining is or aren't very familiar with the process, I think they'd be interested to hear about what goes into creating a routine, choosing the music, choosing the costume. I think that'd be fun to hear about.
Yeah. So like for me, what I kind of do is first I think of the horse I'm going to use. Typically I tend to use older horses that are broke, and I like to choose ones that are like the ones I've used recently, Game Day Surprise and Wallow Was a Fair. They're both pretty laid back. I find that they deal with the atmosphere better. They don't get amped up or scared of stuff. They're old, like I said, they're older horses. They've been around a lot. They've been exposed to a lot of stuff. So it just gives you a little more leeway on to what you can do. And in addition to that, they're amazing athletes. They're great. I mean, they all do the maneuvers unbelievable. So, so those are typically kind of ones I do. And once I know the horse I have, I try to dictate my song to that. Like if I have a horse that's maybe like Game Day Surprise that I use, he's a little slower. He's kind of an old lazy man, right? Especially nowadays. So I'm not going to choose like a super fast upbeat song because it just doesn't, I feel it doesn't fit them right. Where, if you have a horse that's quicker footed or, really quick and agile, you can choose a faster paced song. So, I try to dictate what my horse is. And like a little bit too, if you have a newer horse, like when we're I call them training horses for freestyle, I might choose a little more slower beated song or a little quieter song just to kind of give them a good intro to it. Because you're exposing them to a lot of new stimulus. They're not used to the crowd. They're not used to the lights. They're not used to the noises, the costumes, just all of it. It's a lot for them to take in. And, as flight animals, they get scared. So, and if you don't, like we always thought, my dad always said, if you don't introduce them to them correctly, you can, it harms them and it scares them and it can even ruin them for their regular shows. I had one horse, my old youth horse, it didn't scar him, but he got to where every time he heard music, he'd just like get amped up and like start bucking. And so like we quit using him because he was just like, yeah. But, cause they know what's going, like a lot of them know. And like, even nowadays, Eli knows, my old Game Day Surprise that I use a lot, I can take him into a reining pen and it's like, he will not move his feet. He will not go. He's just like pulling teeth to get him to do anything. But the second you walk through that gate, he just knows. And you can feel it. It's a different horse. Like I don't have to work to make him go, I ask him to go, he's going to go harder than, give it everything. And so, I try to fit my music to my horse that way. And then from there, I typically, depending on the song, because they have to be under 4 minutes, I usually sometimes have to edit the music, which I just use an app or something, but you can take them in and get them edited. And once in a while, I have an idea of how I want to edit stuff. So I try to kind of come up with once I get my music, I get it kind of cut how I want or shrunk down, whatever, so it's in the time limit. I then try to gear my, routine to it. And I tend to find like stuff like if there's repetitive words or a instrument solo or something, I tend to like put turns to those because those things like that repeat, those seem to be good turning areas. Any areas that have like climatic, like where it builds up and like has a big ending, those tend to be good at stopping and stuff. And so it's just kind of, and that's where freestyle's fun, is you can just kind of play it by ear and tie it all together. And that's the challenge of it. And what I love is to try to find something, find ways to come up with different routines that really, match the music. And I've learned a lot watching different, my dad's come up with them and other routines. I still say Guy Vernon, he did a routine to Columbine back in, I can't remember what year, but that one to me was just the exhibit of perfect choreography. And when the music built up and then he'd slide. And then, everything was just, and he, like when the music would get fast, he ran fast. And the second it slowed down, his horse slowed down right with it. And it's just, I think that's the beauty of freestyle, is it's, lets you bring in some artistic stuff. Cause I'm very unartistic in every other area. I can't sing. I can't play any instruments. I can't paint or do anything. So this is my artistic avenue. And so, I like that challenge of trying to tie in the music and, even listening to words. There was one time we did a freestyle for my dad the last time he competed, and, it was Chris Ledoux's The Cowboy's Hat. And in it, at one point we had him back up to the wall, and like in the music, it's like, well, if you're going to go after me and my hat, you have to fight us all. And, something like just as minute as that, but you have, ways to tie the music in and make it an experience versus just riding around to the song kind of thing. So I think that's something. And I think it's a little, people just overlook that part of it. That artistic part of it is, some people just kind of play the song and do a pattern to it. And, but I think what makes the freestyle Denver different is people, you don't just do that. You don't just ride around to the music. You have to have some artistic ability into it, and it's become expected from the crowd and the judges.
Well, in the costumes, I mean,
yeah, the costume is, yeah, that's always my last thing to do is piece together a costume. And again, I usually have a theme. Like my deal, what I've kind of done is gotten into like, I choose a theme, kind of like I'll find an artist or something. And so like I did Michael Jackson one. So, after I came up with everything, I was like, okay, so the song I did was Thriller. So I'm like, well, so I find the Thriller costume, and went out and found a jacket and pants and all that. And same thing, I did Steven Tyler, Aerosmith's Dream On. So I dressed up as Steven Tyler. And, I think those kind of things, which, for me, it's just a way to make it entertaining. And because not to dog on the guys, but I mean, it gets boring when everyone's just in a tuxedo jacket and a tie and a cowboy hat, or, like a big dress. Like I love the dresses, and, I'm all game for a big dress, but, it's something different. And I like to change it up. I get bored myself, and I try to think of what the show, how it is for the exhibitor to look at. Like I think the year I did Elton John, I was going to do The Prayer by Celine Dion. And as we go into it, we all of us trainers talk and stuff. And I was kind of talked around to what everyone was doing, and everything was such a slow song. And I was like, how boring is this show going to be to watch? Like when they're all slow and sappy, and, because the ballads are easier to come up with, and they tend to have all the elements you look for in a song. But I'm like, that's just kind of boring. And so, that's what pushed me to look again. And I stumbled upon the Elton John song, and then that morphed into that crazy costume, and that kind of got all over the place. But that was my deal though. As I said, I wanted to be fun, and that screamed fun from start to finish. And, and I've just been lucky, that led to Lady Gaga and so on and so forth. So, but this year I had to kind of tone her back down, because I always joke, I set the bar really high, and I was like, I kind of need to break it back down because I'm running out of ideas. So I said it was either a nice ballad song, or I was just going to have to do the guys and go into like George Strait with the cowboy hat and just like totally like low bar it.
Well, because like when you say Elton John, you failed to mention that you wore his devil wings on the horse and did it. Like you weren't just dressed as Elton John. You had the full ensemble, and it looked amazing. And I'm not going to lie, now every year when I go to the freestyle, I'm like, what's Sharee going to wear? Because you just keep going and hitting the bar higher and higher every year. But you've also had the opportunity to go to China to demonstrate the freestyle reining, which is obviously a little more foreign to them over there. Can you talk a little bit about that journey and, what it was like doing this demonstration in a completely different country where reining is not by any means like a really popular sport out there? We have riders from Japan and from China who compete in the reining, but it's obviously not as well known as it is over here.
Yeah, so that was a really unique opportunity I got. Doug Milholland is actually the one who set me up for that. They had, he's done a lot of work with getting reining started in China. He's helped get them horses. He's gone over giving clinics, helped put on little shows for them. He's really been kind of the main guys to help introduce it over there. And so they contacted him and wanted a female rider to come over and do freestyle reining at an event that was going on. It turned out to be like a tourist, kind of like a tourist convention kind of thing. It was a bunch of like government officials that came together, and they were we were the entertainment for it. And they're kind of, the way I understood it is there's like a city that they're developing to be the horse capital of China. And so they built this facility in this huge arena and stadium, or yeah, kind of stadium. And so these people were coming to see it, and they were, coming to see what this area was going to be like. And we were the entertainment in the show that they were presenting to them. So it was a 3-day show. So Doug contacted me, and he initially contacted Stacy Westfall, but I think she was busy already because the dates changed a few times. So he contacted me, and I was like, well, heck, why not? Sure. Never thought about going to China. And so my mom, I drugged her in it with me because I was like, traveling halfway around the world by myself was a little daunting. So, and she's my costume coordinator, so I had to take my costume coordinator with me. So, we went to China for 15 days in 2019, and we stayed at their ranch. And the guy, his name was Mr. Lee. And we stayed at his ranch and worked with him and his trainers there for a few days, which was great. And then went on a Chinese road trip, and then went to the where we were going to perform. And we were there, I think, a week, and it was a great experience. They had riders from all over the world. They had Charo team from Mexico. They had a group from Argentina. They had a group from Mongolia. They had horses from, they had a Spanish bullfighting trainer. I'm trying to think what all they had. They had some dancers from Italy. They brought in this famous composer that played the piano. They had, it was just amazing, the talent they brought in. So that was really fun. And so it's, that was a great opportunity and really fun. And the facility was pretty impressive because it was this giant arena, and it had a backdrop, like a screen that was, I don't even know how big it was. It was like the size of a football field. And you could choose your background. And when I got there, I gave them several options of what I could do. And then they're like, well, could you do Let It Go by Frozen? Because that was not many Chinese people and know a lot of American songs, but that was one they knew. And they're like, could you do that? And I was like, oh, sure. I can do that. And so, I got there, and they gave me a background, and they're like, well, we can blow snow on the audience. And I was just like, what? The stuff they did was amazing. And, they had one act that a guy, he was riding a horse, and they gave him a bar. It was like a bar full of, and they had it on fire on the other end. And he's riding this horse with this fire thing. And then he's strapped to a cord, and he lifts off the horse and goes flying through. It was just, when we're watching this, we're like, holy cow, what is that? And every act they had, the opening thing was this giant Andalusian horse with this girl riding it. And it had at least 10-foot wings on the side. It looked like a real Pegasus horse. And this horse is they had to be careful because the wings were so big and heavy, they'd knock the horse over. And so everything had to be placed, and the horse would go out and rear up and then lay, bow with them and stuff. But it was everything they did was just amazing. So, it was really fun. They brought in Toru McCoy from Japan, and he performed with me along with Mr. Lee and his trainers as well. So they kind of did a guy's routine, and then I performed to Let It Go, and Toru performed with me as well. So it was really fun and a great opportunity. I made a lot of great memories, and getting to show reining to them, all of them are very interested in it. They're very eager to learn. It was interesting to see how they've started introducing the general public to horses. The Mr. Lee, he has, I think he has 4 riding schools, and they ride primarily English and stuff, but they start with English, and then they progress to Western, and eventually try to get them into reining and Western dressage, other disciplines. So, it was really cool to see how, they're building the sport over there, and the interest and stuff. And people, it was definitely unique because I've never, I was over there, and just going to the town we were in, we walk around or walk to the grocery store, and people would follow my mom and I and video us. And our translator was like, they're like, you're probably the first white people they've ever seen in person. And she goes, they're taking videos and they're videoing you so they can show their families, because no one will believe them that they saw you and stuff. And so like, it was just very surreal that way. Cause I was, I mean, the States are so diverse and stuff, so you don't think about it, but going over there, it's just kind of, it was weird to be, have people do that. Like I'd come out of the bathroom and women would be throwing their children at me to take pictures with them. And I'm just like, what? Cause I'm a horse trainer, so that doesn't happen. But, it was fun, and definitely an experience I will treasure forever and stuff. So.
That is an experience. I would agree that's an experience. I don't know. That's hilarious to be videoed and you're like, I don't know what you need, but I'll take your picture, I guess.
Yeah.
So other than that, very boring, very dull event that you went to in China. I'm just kidding. It sounds amazing. Yeah. Other high points in your career that really stand out to you?
Honestly, probably the biggest one for me was winning the 25th anniversary of the Dodge Invitational Freestyle. That year they had invited all the champions back. And so it was the first time my dad had shown in for a little while. And so I talked him into doing it. And then they had all the champions. And then they invited me back because I'd been like a 4-time reserve champion. And then another Angela Piccone, they invited her because she was the first People's Choice. So I think they wanted to get up to like 15 or something like that. And so, and that was the year I'd just come back from China. And, it just kind of was one of those things. It just worked out. They'd done, that it just I come up with that idea last minute. It was a family thing. Like you said, the wings I had, literally my dad was constructing them the morning we were heading down there, like with his drill bits and stuff, because they were falling apart. And I'd never ridden with them. So the first time I rode with them was when I put them on as I was walking through the gate, and I was just like, all right, I hope these stay on and don't like kill me, because they were tied around my neck. Like that was the only way we could think to hold them up. So they're like wrapped around my neck. And so it was just kind of like one of those things but I was just, and for the first time, because I always had like a bit, like I said, I'd been second so many times and I've been up there, but and there were lots of times, I thought I could win it and I had it. And so, I'd put a lot of pressure on myself, but that year I just kind of said, I'm just going to have fun with it. I don't care if I win it. There's all these champions in it, so I probably am not going to. I'm just going to I want to entertain them. And so it just worked out, that my horse was amazing during it, and the routine was really fun, and the crowd loved it, and my wings held together, and I didn't choke during the routine. So, that was pretty special to me, and have my dad there to watch and compete with me, and, the whole thing. And my sister, she had flown in, so she was there to help as well. So it was just a fun time, and my dad finished third, which, that was amazing too he was happy, because he was just like, I just don't want to embarrass myself again. So, he was happy. So, I mean, it was just one of those deals that it worked out the best. And and it was a dream of mine since I was a little kid. So to have that actually, happen for me was pretty special, and to have all of my family and friends there. And, and even what was probably the coolest is the other trainers, over the years, all of them, Devin, Bub, Drake, Shane, they're rooting for me to, because every night we'd sit, we all watch each other's routines during the practice, and, everyone would watch and they'd be like, oh, Sharee's got the routine. They knew my routines were good, and, and they'd watched me come so close, but, fall short. And, they were they were probably more happy for me than anyone. I came out and all of them, it's pretty, it's humbling when you walk out and you see all the other trainers are standing there watching through the gate because they want to watch. And, you get out there and they're all cheering and, hoping that you're going to win it and stuff. So that was really humbling to, have all these guys that I'd looked up to growing up and stuff, there to, happy for me to see that I finally reached a goal of mine. So.
I like to think that our Colorado reining community is so supportive of each other. And like you said, with like the different trainers, like you guys are competing against each other, but at the end of the day, they were probably more excited about you winning than you probably were, just because they've seen you grow up. A lot of these guys, let's be real, and seen you through the years. And I love that about this particular event at the stock show, because I feel like it brings the community together and they just want to do something really fun and exciting. And like you said, you're putting on a show for like people like my neighbors across the street go to these events and they have never even sat on a horse. And so it's just such a cool experience. But you've talked a little bit about like some of the special moments that have stood out for you in your career, but what about the special horses that have helped you, get to where you are today? I know you've mentioned Eli a couple times. He's obviously a very special one for you. He's actually hanging on, a picture of him is hanging on my wall too, with Kelly. So I look at Eli every day. But
he's a very photogenic guy.
He really is. Eli has graced the cover of Horse and Rider, as has Sharee, but not on Eli, on another horse. No. But can you talk a little bit about the special horses that have come into your life and what about them has, I don't know if heart horse is a good word or just, ones that have kind of shaped your life?
Yeah. Well, my first one that always comes to my mind is my youth horse that my parents bought me, this gelding named HR Powder River Athena. I called him Bubbles. And he was like my first real horse of my own. Like I'd always kind of gotten horses that were hand me down from my sister or my parents. And, and I just I never really attached to him. But when my parents bought me Bubbles, he was kind of my first horse. And, I showed him and I'd won a couple saddles, some youth awards and like a national saddlesmith series with him and had a lot of success. But he was I guess, just my first horse. And for what my mom to this day says, if it weren't for him, I probably wouldn't be in this, because he was the reason when we got him, I started getting more interested in it and wanting to show in the summer. And he's the one that, my mom always told me, well, you can sell him and get a new horse or sell him and go do that. And I was like, no, I'm not. Like, I just won't show anything if I can't, if I have to get rid of him. And so, he was my horse, my like heart horse. And so, I owe a lot of it for him, is because he's the one that kept me in it and kept, kind of kept my foot into it and got me, when I was and I could do anything on him. I mean, he was like Powder River Playboy, and actually he was a cutting horse when we bought him, but the guy had played with the reining a little bit and he was a freaky huge stopper. So, he just kind of was one that you wouldn't expect it from him, but he and I clicked really well. And he really gave me the bug and kind of led me down the path that I ended up on. Eli is definitely up there with him. He's one of our oldest clients, Sharhan, bought him. Like my dad had got him, the people that bred him, Mike Deere. He sent him to my dad because Aaron had started him, Aaron Ralston, but was going out of town for a while. And so Mike sent him to my dad to keep him going and see if we could sell him. And so my dad got him and he really liked him. So he talked Shar into buying him. And so my dad trained him and showed him until he was about 4. And he wasn't quite an open horse. He was just a little too lazy and he'd always kind of make some little mistakes, was just not quite there. So we had the opportunity to buy him from Shar. So we bought him for me for a non-pro horse, and I showed him till he was 6. And, and I loved him. And he was for me as a non-pro, he's one of my first really big time kind of non-pro horses. And I made the finals at the NRBC on him. And, he kind of helped me reach that next competitive level I had wanted. And then after I showed him at the NRBC, I think I told him to one of my dear friends, Barney Kurth, that was riding with us. And so she owned him from 6 till like 2 years ago. I actually bought him back from her. But she was so nice because she loved him too from the start, and I knew he'd be perfect for her. And she had great success with him and showed him all over the place, and unfortunately had some health issues to where she couldn't ride anymore. So she decided to sell him, and so I couldn't let him go anywhere. So I bought him, and he's basically retired. He makes his come out ride for the freestyle once a year, but he's still fat and happy, lives right by main spot of the barn and gets attention and apples every day. So he's again, another one that he just gave me so many opportunities and, just really expect, and I know I can count on him. When I bought him, I'm like, I really don't need to buy an age gelding that, but I'm like, I can't let him go anywhere. And even if, it's nice to have one, even for me, a lot of it is, I ride so many young ones, and I'm always trying to work on stuff. It's for me, like my dad laughs, there's more times than not that I just get on him bareback with like a halter and tootle around. And my dad's like, well, he made the comment a little while ago. He goes, he's 15 years old, but he finally gets to become a little girl's horse. Cause like that's what I do. But for me, that's, I think that's what keeps me, is that deep down, I do love my horses and I spoil them, and they're, while I am training them, and I kind of, I try to be a professional about it, but I'm a little girl that just loves horses and likes to play with them. So, I'm out there riding him around and playing with him. And he's one, like the other day I put him on, we have a flag in our arena, and all my other horses are terrified of it. And he's not a huge fan of it, but like we played on the flag, and, if I want to go ride at ropings or what, he's kind of my old guy that I can do anything on with now. So, he doesn't have huge, and like some of our clients that we have, some that like my mom, or we had a lady that had a back surgery, and her horse is a little young and she was a little worried. So I'm like, here, ride him. And so I call him my geriatric rehab horse. So he like any of my clients that like need rehabbed, he helps them get back in the saddle and stuff. So he has his purpose, but it's pretty low impact. Like everyone laughs because I have strict rules. If you ride Eli, it's like none of that, no, that, don't do that. And so he's up there. And then I'd probably say Spook's Matrix was another one. He fit, even though he wasn't mine. He's definitely made a huge impact. He helped me reach a new level and push myself up to a new level of competitiveness as an open rider, and, gave me so many opportunities that I never thought I'd have, and, made a lot of my dreams come true that way. So he's up there as one of the special ones as well. So
Eli sounds like the horse everybody needs to have. I mean,
yeah, everybody loves Eli. He's a ham, and he loves the attention. And like I said, he's pretty special. He's one of those, like, because when I was talking with Barney, and it was devastating to her to have to sell him because she loved him. And when she told me that, and I hung up the phone, I said, you guys are going to think I'm stupid, but I'm going to try to buy him. And my dad goes, I'm glad you said that, because he goes, I was trying to figure out how we would buy him if you weren't going to. Because he goes, we can't let him go anywhere. So it's not just me, it's my whole family. So, we always say there's horses that, that touch your soul, and they don't owe you a thing. And we feel like we owe it to them to take care of them and let them live out their lives how they deserve, and pampered and spoiled. And that is definitely how Eli is doing.
And it's the best when everybody's on the same page. You're like, I'm going to do this crazy thing. I'm going to buy this horse. And they're like, well, we were going to do the same thing. So.
Yep. It makes you feel better. Like, it helps when my parents are the crazy horse people too. So when you're going, I shouldn't be spending this money or buying this horse, I don't need to. And they're like, yeah, well, we were going to do it if you didn't. So
I need more of those enablers in my life.
Yeah, we're a bad family about that.
Sharee, it's been awesome talking with you. I know we've really appreciated your time here.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you, guys.
Is there somewhere where folks can follow along with your journey, social media? Where can they find you to watch more of your freestyle videos, or just kind of see your training?
I'm on Facebook under my own name, but also Schwartzenberger Equine is our page, and I try to put my routines and stuff on there. I have an Instagram, but I'm not very good about using it, but I can. It's SRSCHWA. So that's on there, but Facebook's probably the easiest. That's kind of what I can manage with my schedule and stuff, is to keep up there. We also have our website, www.ssequine.com. So that needs a little revamp, so don't go there yet. But we're a little behind on that one. But, hopefully, those are some pretty good spots that we try to keep people updated and stuff. So.
Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to talk to us. This conversation could keep going, I feel like, but I know that you're very busy. So, thank you for taking this hour plus to talk with us, and, tell people a little bit more about who you are and why it is that you love what you do, and, the freestyle and the reining and everything.
Well, thank you guys for giving me the opportunity and inviting me to do it. It's been fun. And, I hope if anyone ever, again, extends to the audience, if anyone has any questions about reining, horses, anything, freestyle, whatever, I'm always available. You can shoot us an email on our website or shoot me a message on Facebook or whatever. I love talking about horses, and like you said, I could talk all day. So
awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you guys for tuning into the Ride Podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and please be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow Horse and Rider Magazine on social media and find us at horseandrider.com to see all the cool things that we're up to. And if you have any comments or questions, please be sure to hit us up at horseandrider@equinenetwork.com. We want to hear from you guys. And if you like what you're listening to, please be sure to leave us a review on iTunes.